إنما تنذر من اتبع ذكرا وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أكثر مدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرهم وهم محتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع الذين محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة وأحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير عزيز عليم. والقمر قدرنا منازله حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذرية في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون. فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون. هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون. لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون. سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يأكلون وما علمناه شعرا وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللنا له فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناهم من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام ويرمي قل يحيي الذي أنشاها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون سورة مباركة الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل اسم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من كربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانيا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا اللهم وأسألك السؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لكبائي ساترا ولا لشيء من عمل الكبير بالحسن مبدلا غيرك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي اللهم مولاي كم من كبير سترت وكم من فاد من البلاء أكلت وكم من إثار وكيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أحلا لو نشرت اللهم عظم بلائي وعفرت بي سوء حالي وكسرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني النفع بود عملي وخدتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفزحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملت في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوامي تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور أتوفا إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأل كشف الضر والنظر في أمري إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت في هوى نفسي ولم أحترز في من تزيني عدوي فغرني بما أحوى وأسد على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي في قضاءك والزمني حكمك وبلاؤك وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي مقتدرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفضلا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في السعة من رحمتك اللهم فأقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاق يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني وركة جلدي ودكة عظمي يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك والسالف برك بي يا إلهي والسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدي وبعد ما انتوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك وليج بلسان من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك الساجدة وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك الصادق وبشكرك ماضها وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارها سات الأوثان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرن بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها ألا أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثور يسير بقاء كثير مدة فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدة ويدوم مقام ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي العليم العذاب والشدة أم لطول البلاء ومدتي فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابي فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر ناري فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتي أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفو فبعزتك استجب فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناتك لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج العاملين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولو نادينك إن كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية أعمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاك طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج معمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من علمك أم كيف تظلم النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يهلك لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه أم كيف يتكلكل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم الصدق أم كيف تزجر زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتترك فيها هيهات الصفات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت بالموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أكتو لولا ما حكمت بي من تعظيم جاحدك وقضيت بي من إخلاد معاندك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكن لك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد في المعاندين وأن تجلى ثناؤك قلت مبتدعا وتتولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي والسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من علي أجريت أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل كبير أسررت وكل جهل عملت كتمت وأعلنت أخفيت وأظهرت وكل سيئة أمرت بإثبات الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي والسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيدنا عاصية يا لمن بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي وإرادتي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من علي معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جواري واشدد على العزيمة جوانه وحبل الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرى إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرى إليك في البارزين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة المؤمنين وأتمي في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بالسوء فأعرض ومن كادني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقرب منزلة منك وخصم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأكلني عثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من راس ماله الرجاء وسلاه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النكم يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أحلو فصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Sayyid Hasan Rizvi, respected elders, dearest brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumin listed on the screen, as well as all other marhumin. Al-Fatiha. Dua Shafai Marid is also requested for all those in need here and elsewhere, as well as all those listed on the screen. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su' أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Ya Allah, let us now invite Sayyid Hasan Rizvi to please recite tonight's Majlis with the salawat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So far on the topic of Silatul Rahim, we've gone through a few different points. We first introduced the topic, we talked about the meaning of Silatul Rahim, went deeper into the concept, looked at some of the ayat of the Quran about Silatul Rahim. Then we split it off into two different parts. We first talked about how in riwayat the benefits of Silatul Rahim have been mentioned, like increase of rizq, increase of life, giving this refreshing value and having this positive effect on the soul. And then 2 weeks ago, we also went to the other side and talked about the negative effects and the negative repercussions and the consequences if somebody does not perform Silatul Rahim, يعني they do Qat Rahim. If they cut off relations, what were some of the consequences there? And we talked about how the negative consequences are not equivalent, they're not the opposite of the positive, right? They were much, much harsher. And some, even if we remember one of the riwayat, the Ahlul Bayt were saying that it's as if when a person does this, it's as if they have no iman in Allah, right? So it's a very serious thing for a person to cut off relations from their family members. So I want to continue on, and now we're going to get into a bit more of the details, right? So we'll go through some of the rules, some of the basic misconceptions that happen regarding Silatul Rahim and Qat Rahim, and some of the objections and questions that people have about wanting to perform it, or rather, a lot of times people, they know that it's there, they know they're supposed to maintain, and they think that they might have a valid excuse. They say, well, I can't do it because of this reason or that reason. So we have to figure out the reasons that people have for cutting off certain family members. Are these valid reasons in Islam, and have they been addressed in the riwayat of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we got a few different questions we want to go through. We want to go through the who or the whom, meaning to whom do we perform Silatul Rahim? Then the what, meaning what are the actual limits? What are the boundaries, limitations? Where do I, what do I have to, what situations should I, do this in? And then, inshallah, I think we'll have to wait till next time for this, but we also want to get to the how, meaning what are some of the examples, the bare minimum, or even the maximum of what Silatul Rahim includes. What do I actually have to do? All right, let's start with first to whom. So we have mentioned this previously because it did come up in the Q&A, but we want to actually go now a bit more detail about, okay, who is actually considered part of Rahim? Who are my relatives? Right? So we're not using this in metaphorical sense, yes, all of insan is my family. Oh yes, we talked about that, how it's sort of like that in some riwayat, that yes, all humans, we're all part of one big family, we're all the tribe, Banu Adam, alayhi salam, sure. But this is a specific fiqhi issue. So the boundaries are defined by maraji'. So Ayatul Sistani, hafidhahullah, has a very specific opinion in this regard. And some maraji' may differ, but as usual, I'm going to explain his opinions, not other maraji'. So, silatul rahim, meaning maintaining relations with family. Family, as we said, rahim is womb, right? Rahim literally means womb. So these are womb relatives, meaning blood relatives, and that's it. So anybody that is connected because of marriage, meaning I don't have a direct relationship with them by blood. They're not part of my actual blood relations and family. I'm only related to them because of marriage, right? Usually, this is where that term in-law comes from. If, according to Ayatul Sistani, that is not part of one's family, right? Yeah, they still deserve honor and respect, but that's not part of Silatul Rahim. So, as an example, I'm not saying do this, but for some reason, if let's say an individual decides to not really go out of their way to maintain relationships with their brother-in-law or their sister-in-law, that's not a problem, right? There's no fiqhi issue there. Maybe akhlaqi, sure, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about at least the sharia, the bare minimum, what does it require, right? So, okay, what do we mean by family then? Well, it's the obvious ones. We have uncles and aunts. Again, these are all paternal, maternal, not the ones that have married into the family, right? So I have, for example, my parents, their brothers and sisters, right? Those are my actual blood relatives, correct? Anybody that they marry, yes, I still might refer to them as my aunt or, my uncle, meaning whatever it is, mamu, pupo, whatever, the relationship is. But let's just say, again, this is an easy way to think about it. It's not the best way, it's not a positive way, but it makes it easier. If ever a divorce were to occur, who would I still be connected with? So let's say my chacha, for example, right? I hope he's not watching. I don't want him to use this as an example, but I'm trying to make it more, understandable. So my father's brother, right? So he is my blood relative. He's my paternal uncle, right? He's married to somebody, right? So my chachi. Now, I don't have an actual blood relation to her. She's my chachi. I love her and I respect her because of the relationship because my chacha, right? If, God forbid, a divorce ever were to happen, my chacha stole my chacha. He stole my father's brother. There's still a blood relationship there. But my chachi now, she's not my chachi anymore, right? She's ex-chachi now, right? Again, God forbid something like this happens. I'm only explaining it this way so that, we can at least get it down outside of the abstract. So if a divorce happens, that person now, they lose all connection to me, right? There's no connection to the family anymore. That, in the same way, mahramiyah works pretty much the same way too. It's a good, kind of tip to remember. So they're not family. So this is why this in-law thing comes there. So I don't really call her my chachi-in-law. That's not the way we usually frame it. But you can see how when that cutoff takes place, if a cutoff were to take place, there's no blood relation there, so they're not part of my family anymore, right? So that's one example. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So again, this is working for paternal uncles, aunts, right? Both sides. Now, you've got cousins. Cousins, generally speaking, are also going to be blood related too, right? Now, this is where we say, okay, well, how deep does this go and how far does this go? So, we've got first cousins. I think that's fairly obvious. Most people will consider that family. Okay, well, what about second? What about third? What about fourth? Now here, for Ayatul Sistani, he says, look, I'm not going to specify which blood family members you have to do Silatul Rahim with. So it's a combination of two things. One is, like I said, the criteria is that it has to be blood related, not connected through family. That's one part of it. The other part that he brings into his fatwa is that it has to be understood by urf. What do the people in your community, your society understand? It's possible that, let's say, maybe, again, it might be a little bit different for some of you over here, but there are, I know, many in this community, their second or third cousins they're very, very close to them. Because, usually from our countries, our families are very connected and we move together and things like that. So second and third cousins, maybe in other communities or in other ethnic backgrounds, second, third cousin, they consider them like nobody. But maybe in our community, urf is that yes, second, third cousin is family. If a wedding takes place, you go. If you don't speak to them, people are going to why are you cutting off from them? So if that's what the urf says here, and again, they are blood related, then yes, we have to maintain relations with them. But again, that is going to depend on urf. It'll depend on how far cut off it can get. Now, 5th, 6th, 7th related, again, it'll again depend on the urf there. When I was thinking about this too, I don't know how related it is, but I'm wondering if that maybe this is why we have such a prevalence of, let's say, cousin and family marriages in our communities, right? It doesn't really happen in other ethnic backgrounds, but in our communities it does. You still find people, especially back home, where first cousins get married, it's not a big deal. Obviously over here, in some places they find it, whatever, taboo or a problem, but most other places don't, especially back home in the East. So, I always wondered, I wonder if this was somehow in the back of somebody's mind, they're like, you know what, if I start marrying into family, then that'll reduce some of my wajibat and my muharramat, right? Because now if I marry my cousin, well, I have to take care of my spouse and I have to do silat al-rahim, so now it's like 2 wajibs in one. It's like one wajib now out of the picture. Or my uncle and my aunt, I'm marrying into the family now, I don't have to go out of my way for silat al-rahim. Yes, they're my in-laws, they're uncle and aunt as well too. I don't know, just a random thought. Probably not true, who knows. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we said the one category that's going to be kind of removed then are in-laws, right? Because they're not directly connected. The other one too, and this doesn't really apply in our situation because this doesn't really happen here. I don't know how much they do in some other, let's say, Eastern or more traditional countries, but they have the idea of riba'i siblings, right? Those who are all nursed by, one mother, right? When that happens, there also are connections made. So riba'i siblings, meaning they're siblings now because they all have shared. And again, there's fiqh for this, but I'm not going to go into the details. You can read it yourself. But they're not considered part of silat al-rahim too, because they're not coming from the same womb, right? They're not blood relatives. They're only related because of that milk from a certain mother that's been, that she's nursed the same people from different areas. So this is, I don't know, some Arab tribes still do something like this. In a lot of our countries, as far as I can remember, most people didn't really do things like this. I don't think it happens anymore, if it did happen back then. But even from whatever generations I can recall, I don't think this was something really in the kind of Desi Indo-Pak communities. This is not really something we ever engaged in. Again, I may not know how far back it goes, maybe it did, but this is something a lot more prevalent in Arab communities. So that thing doesn't apply there too, right? Okay. So what we've gone through first is, okay, whom? To whom is it wajib? Who are Salat al-Rahim? Who do I have to do it to? We talked about it, blood relatives. Okay. Now, what are the limits though? Like how far do I actually have to go? What if there's a problem? Right? So we're going to go through some of those issues now. What if these individuals, right, some family member, they're not religious? Okay, I'm trying my best. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but there's somebody else, whatever, cousin, uncle, aunt, whatever, part of my family, blood relative, but they just don't care about the deen. They're irreligious. Maybe, we can go to an extreme, maybe they're even atheist, or, maybe they're just some other religion altogether. Maybe they left. Who knows? Okay, do I still have to do silat al-rahim to them? Do I still have to maintain connections with them? So these kind of questions, again, they're not new. They've come up, and they came up during the time of the Ahlul Bayt as well. So over here, we look at a hadith from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. So one of the companions came to the Imam, and he says, he told him, تَكُونُ لِي قُرَابَ عَلَى غَيْرِ أَمْرِ. He says, look, I've got people within my ahl and my family, and they're not one of us. Now, not one of us in this context doesn't mean they're not Shia. It probably means that they're not Muslim, right? So they're non-Muslims. Could be Christian, could be Jew, could be atheist, could be anything. And given the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, could be anything. But he basically said, look, they're not one of us. Not one of us. Okay. So he says, Alahum alayya haqq. Like, do I have any haqq? Do they have any haqq over me? Do I have any haqq over them? Do I have to do salat al-rahim to them? Like, how does this work now? So Imam replies, Na'am, haqqur rahim. Yes, you still have to do salat al-rahim to them. La yaqtuhu shay'un. So you cannot cut off your relationship with them, even though they're, might be a different religion. وَإِذَا كَانُوا عَلَىٰ أَمْرِكَ. So, but if they actually are in the same religion as you, if they're Muslims, كَانَ لَهُمْ حَقًّان. So, now again, there's two categories. So first he said, look, yes, they have a haqq, they have a right over you. That right over you is still silat al-rahim. But if they are of the same deen, the same religion, if they're also Muslim, then lahum haqqan, then they have two rights. What are the two rights? Haqqul Rahim, so they still have Silatul Rahim obviously because they're family. Wa Haqqul Islam, and the added haqq and the rights that they get as a Muslim as well. So this idea that some people have where, no, they don't practice, they're not muttadayin, they're not muttaqi, they don't come to the programs, they don't this, no, none of this applies. If they are blood related, then you have to maintain relations as much as possible. But now somebody might say, well, what if they cut me off? What if they're just annoying and they're bothersome? What if their akhlaq is no good? What if I just can't stand being around them? Maybe they are religious, I just don't like being around them. Right? People say they're toxic. What do we do then? Again, over here, the sixth Imam, so this companion named Abdullah ibn Talha, he narrates this, he says, I heard Imam Sadiq saying this, and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, I'm narrating to you from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He says that once, Inna rajulun atan nabi. Once a person came to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and he said to him, قال, Ya Rasulullah, inna li ahla. He says, okay, Ya Rasulullah, I've got some family. قد كنت أصلهم وهم يؤذوني. I try my best to maintain connections with them. I try to make that, silatul rahim with them. I maintain it, but they just do aziyat to me. They just annoy me. They bother me. They're just, I can't handle them. وَقَدْ أَرَدْتُ رَفْضَهُم. He's like, now my intention, my niyat basically, my irada, is that I just want to refuse them and reject them. Like I'm getting sick of them, tired of them. Like I can't deal with this anymore. So then, فَقَالَ لَهُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. So then Rasulullah says to him, إِذَنْ يَرْفَضَكُمُ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. So again, this person says to Rasulullah, I'm trying to maintain connection. These guys just bother me, they get on my nerves, they're annoying. I just want to break off, I want to refuse them and reject them. Rasulullah responds that, okay, if that's the case, meaning if you go through with this, you cut off, you reject them and refuse them, then Allah will reject and refuse all of you together. Every single one of you. Why? Well, it's obvious. Them, because of their annoyance to you, and for you doing qatr rahim. All of you now will be rejected and refused by Allah. So then, the person's like, okay, قال وكيف أصنع? It's like, okay, well, then tell me, what do I do? Ya Rasulullah, all right, fine. I don't obviously want that. I don't want to be rejected and refused by Allah. I don't want them to be refused either, hopefully. What do I do? He says, قال تعطي من حرمك. Then he gives these few nice akhlaqi principles. تعطي من حرمك. You give to somebody who has made it haram to give to you. Meaning, if somebody refuses to take care of you, be nice to you, and provide for you, you make sure you go give to them. Don't let their akhlaq, don't let the fact that they don't help you out, don't let that affect you. وَتَصِلُ مَنْ قَطَعَكَ. When somebody cuts you off, you go out and you maintain connection with them. وَتَعْفُ عَمَّنْ ظَلَمَكَ. If somebody does dhulm to you, if they oppress you, you forgive them. Meaning, conclusion is, he's like, you always take the higher road. Don't let their bad akhlaq, their lack of connection to Allah, don't let that affect your connection to Allah. فَإِذَا فَعَلْتَ ذَلِكَ. If you do this, كَانَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ لَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ ظَهِيرًا. If you do all of this, meaning you give even when they don't give to you, you connect even when they cut you off, and you forgive even when they do dhulm to you, he says, you do all of that, then Allah will become a zahir for you. So the person's like, okay, قال ابن طلحة فقلت له عليه السلام ما ظهيره. He's like, what do you mean Allah's going to be a zahir? What does that mean? Zahir literally means back. He's like, what do you mean Allah's going to be a back? He says, قال العون, assistance. Allah will be your backbone, your support. Allah will come and take care of everything that you need in your life. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Some people might ask, sometimes these individuals, they reach a level though where I need to send them a message. Right? When they do dhulm, maybe they're doing guna and ma'asiyah, I need to send them a certain message. And maybe my cutting off is going to give them that message, right? Sometimes people, they just come around and they sin. It does happen in a few instances where there are certain occasions, sometimes family gatherings, where there's haram taking place. Obviously, if there's haram there, then of course, we don't want to attend that. If your presence is going to encourage that haram, then obviously you can't be there either. Right? There are some cases where a person's like, whenever you come around, I'm giving a random example, but this has happened in certain families. They're like, whenever you come around, I feel like singing and dancing and doing whatever random stuff. If that's the case, then yeah, you have to cut off to that extent, you have to maybe not see them in person for occasions like that. So if there's some haram involved with a certain aspect of Silat Rahim, then that aspect you don't do. Obviously, you can still send salam, send messages, call, things like that. But if somehow your Silat Rahim will lead to haram or promote haram or do something like that, yeah, that's where obviously you don't do it. But sometimes people say, look, but it's not haram, but the way that they're acting, it's like a zulm to me. They're oppressing me, and I need to send a message to them so they know that they might be punished by Allah. People, they become these mubalighin all of a sudden, right? They want to be ambassadors for Islam. Say, yes, I'm Allah's Khalifa, and I have to do something. And if I cut them off, then this will send a message to them. Again, we jump to another instance narrated from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Running out of time, so maybe I'll leave out the Arabic over here. So he says, so a person comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, says, look, he's like, I have some brothers and I have some uncles, actual blood relatives. He's like, they have restricted me, they are oppressing me in terms of my haqq and my rights. So the story seems as though that there was some inheritance or some property, that's what it seems like, and it was supposed to be divided amongst them, and some of them are doing zulm, meaning they're taking things that don't belong, and they're taking this person, this narrator, yarhamukumullah, they're taking his right away. He's literally saying, like, there's some area in our land or our property, and they've restricted me, meaning, yarhamukumullah, they've taken away some of my rights. It's like they've left me with this one area, and that's it. They've completely taken some of my stuff away. And then he says, again, I'm skipping some of the Arabic parts here, the kind of context. He says, look, if I were to go and complain to whatever governor or judge or do something, then I'm going to lose everything and they might lose everything too. Like, so I don't want to do that. Right? Okay. So the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says to him, he says, Isbir, just have sabr. Inna Allah sayaj'alu laka faraja. Allah soon will give you some way out and will take care of you, will give you an exit strategy, will make you happy. He'll figure out the situation, don't worry. Right? So again, sometimes in our minds, we're like, I have to do something because a person's doing zulm, they're doing an oppression, and I've got to take care of the situation. I've got to do something. Imam here is saying, look, just be patient. Allah will take care of it. Don't worry about that. So, again, this person's narrating. He says, look, whatever intention I had in my mind to go to the authorities, to go to the governor, to go to the qadi, to bring a case against them, he's like, I left it. He's like, all right, fine. Imam told me what to do, fine. So he decided, I'm not going to pursue litigation against them. Fine. I won't take him to the Islamic courts. He says, and it just so happened that soon in the future, a plague occurred in the area. The plague occurred, and every single one of those family members, every single one of them died except for me. I was the only one left living. He said, later on then, I ended up meeting the Imam on some other occasion. He said, I came to the Imam. The Imam said to me, he says, Ma hal ahl baytik? He's like, so what's the situation with your family now? How are things going? He says, he told him, he's like, every single one of them died. Every single one of them. I'm the last one left pretty much out of all this. So the Imam says, he says, قَالَ هُوَ بِمَا صَنَعُوا بِكَ. He says, this, meaning what happened to them, is in direct correlation and as a result and a consequence of what they did to you. This is why the plague affected them. وَبِعُقُوبِهِمْ إِيَّاكَ. It's like because they took this right away, they rebelled against you and they took things that didn't belong, this is how Allah took care of it. Right? So the Imam's not telling them that, you go and fight for your rights. He's like, look, you have patience, let Allah take care of the situation for you. وَقَطْعِ الرَّحْمِهِمْ بُطُرُوا. This qat' al-rahm that they did to you, this is what has led to them kind of being wiped out in this manner. And then he asked him, أَتُحِبُّ أَنَّهُمْ بَقُوا وَأَنَّهُمْ ضَيِّقُوا عَلَيْكَ. He's like, did you want them to actually stay alive? Did you love for them to stay alive and for you to continue to be kind of oppressed and have your rights trampled? He's like, no, obviously not, right? So that irada, that intention that he had, he didn't have to go forward and do this on his own. Imam came and advised, said, look, you don't always have to come out and send a message and be, Allah's judge, jury, and executioner. Sometimes, us having patience, Allah will take care of the rest, inshaAllah ta'ala. And we'll end with this one beautiful hadith. This comes from Abu Abdullah, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Husseini ibn Ali, alayhi salatu wassalam. Very short, but very beautiful. Inna awsala nas man wasala man qata'. He says, the one who is the most connected person is the one who connects himself with the one who's cut him off. We think about maintaining connections and being a connected person. Yes, I'm very connected in the industry or in corporate world or whatever, on LinkedIn, I don't know, whatever people are doing now. Imam's saying, no. The most connected person is what? When somebody cuts them off, they're the ones who go out of their way and they maintain the connection. Somebody else can sever that connection. That is not an excuse. It's not a valid excuse in the Sharia or akhlaqan for us to go and cut off from them. Now, okay, well, what does that mean though? Does that mean now that I have to go and see them all the time? And what exactly is the bare minimum or the maximum? What do I actually do? Inshallah, in hopefully the next session, we'll get to that. And inshallah, we'll wait till that next session, inshallah. We'll move on with our quiz now. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. While people are logging in, just a reminder, technically, officially, the registration obviously has closed for the marriage workshop. That's taking place this weekend. The registration for the Mizan Institute course about the hour, that is still open. It'll still be open for another week or two, I believe. So please, you can go check out the flyer, and the broadcast, and whatever. You can go and register for on the screen too. You can go and register there. Again, the quick link is mizaninstitute.org/Orlando. And again, even if you haven't attended any courses before, you can still attend this one. Refreshments are there. There's course materials that you take home, kind of a book that usually they include some of the ayat, the riwayat that are mentioned, some notes, and then babysitting for those who need it is also provided as well. Okay, I think we can get started with the quiz then. Okay, good luck to everybody. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Performing sajda on walnuts, almonds, and hazelnuts, pistachios is not allowed, but praying on their shells is fine after being separated from the actual nut. Is that true or false? Meaning, can you pray on the shell of nuts after the meat or the nut has been taken out? Surprisingly, this is actually true. I had no idea until I looked it up myself. It's very clearly mentioned in Ayat al-Sistani's Risala that yes, the shells, if you remove the nut from there, you can actually pray on them. Now, what situation where somebody has got some random shells in their pocket and they need to do that? I don't know, but yeah, now you know. Number 2. In which situation is it okay to cut off relatives? They're irreligious, they cut me off first, my spirituality is being affected, they sin more because of me, or none of the above? What situation, if any, is it okay to cut off and do qat' ar-rahim and cut off a relation from blood family members? Oh, okay. So the people who said here, my spirituality is being affected, remember, the Imams are very clear here that you maintaining that connection is what increases your spirituality, right? It's only when there's guna and sin and ma'asiyah involved does it become okay. You have to now, not be connected with them, right? So when people say my spirituality is being affected, grow up. No, that's not supposed to happen. Okay, let's see who's got first place so far. I think looks like Specialist in first place, wow, but with a huge lead, Specialist. Second place, Amar Ali, good job, 1608. I think you can still take first place if you want. And then I'm assuming that's supposed to be Zahra, but probably a typo with an S at the end, with 930 points. But let's see if these last 2 questions could change things up. Okay, number 3. Rasulullah has said that blank won't descend for a community if even one amongst them cuts off their relatives. Angels won't descend, blessings won't descend, mercy won't descend, or rizq won't descend. What won't come down if even one person in a qawm, in a community, does qat' ar-rahim? Is that malaika refuse to descend, ni'mah refuses, and barakah does not descend, rahmah does not come down, or rizq and sustenance will not come down? Oh boy. Oh, Rasulullah, according to the hadith, was that malaika? Oh boy. I wonder if that one person who got it right was Specialist or not. Let's see. We'll have to wait. We have one more question. Okay, what is the tallest mountain in the world? We've got Kilimanjaro, Everest, Fuji, or K2. What is the tallest mountain in the world? If the question was, which of these would I ever climb, the answer would be none of the above. No, thank you. Most of you got that. Very good. Okay, Mount Everest. You know, I've heard this so many times over and over again, I always still forget that Mount Everest is the tallest. Okay. Oh, looks like it... Oh, so close. Specialist did take first place. Hussein in second place. And Amar Ali just 201 points behind in third place. Congratulations. Very good. We will see you all, inshallah, bitawfiq Allah, tomorrow night, inshallah, as we commemorate the Shahada of Zainab bint Ali, alayhi salatu wasalam, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, wa ala ahl baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله السلام عليك يا وارث علي أمير المؤمنين ولي الله السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الردي الزكي الهادي المهدي وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباء السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله ووداء السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الناصح السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله، بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم، وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم، وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما، وأقدمهم إيمانا، وأقومهم بدين الله، وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام، فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر، والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليك يا أمة المسلمين، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن، عجل الله فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا وذليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.